Hello everyone, welcome back to this month's episode of Digital Marketing Talk. Now, it's been a month since I've recorded one of these videos. That's because, like yourself, I've got other stuff to do, during the month. I'll make some other videos between the last one and this one as well. So I probably make 2 or 3 a month, to be honest. It's simply not viable, to be making one every week. It just takes too much time, the researching, the filming, the editing and stuff. But I do try and do a minimum of, 1 stroke 2, or if I'm lucky, 3 a month. So for this month's topic, I've got a whole load of stuff I'm going to be going through with you. As usual, I've got my coffee here. It'd be difficult to do a video without the coffee. So I hope you're well. The weather's still reasonable. It's not quite as hot as it was, but it's it's not too bad. So without further ado, let's crack on. One of the first things I'm going to pick up on with you is around Facebook and some of the changes there. So as usual, I've got my list in front of me, so I'm going to be reading off that a little bit and looking at the screen as well. So let's just start before I get into that by saying that digital marketing is always changing, it's always evolving. I hope you can hear me. My microphone is absolutely knackered. I've got it clipped onto my shirt pocket here because the clip that normally clips it on here is broken, so hopefully we should be okay. But yeah, look, digital marketing is constantly changing, and the whole industry is changing. Even this morning I got an email through from like a newsletter type thing from eTalk China, and they were saying that a lot of Chinese are now turning to, let's see if I can find it. They're saying they're turning to TikTok and just bear with me 10 seconds. It won't take me long to find it. Yeah, this is what it says. So it says, Chinese Generation Z shifting away from classic search engines like Baidu and Google, increasingly using social media and short-form video platforms like what we got here, Douyin, Red Note. I believe that's Little Red Book. The equivalent name for that. TikTok, which is really huge, and the parent company of TikTok is Chinese, and Instagram, for information and networking and stuff. And of course they're using AI chatbots to find information to answers really quickly. So it's all up in the air. Everything's completely changing, and there's a positive thing about that, there's a negative thing about that, because you're always having to kind of keep up with the changes and stuff. So okay, let's bring up what I've got here. So just let me okay, I should be fine. Right, so look, this is what it says here. It says all video upload, this is for Facebook, all video uploads are now automatically shared as Reels. I don't know if you noticed that, but Reels are hugely popular because it's as is all short form content. People can digest it much more easy, and because everyone's using smartphones, that's the driver behind it. That's why short form content is proving more popular now. So excuse me. So let's just carry on reading here. So it says enforcing a vertical 9.16 format for maximum reach across Meta's ecosystem, requiring content strategies to focus on reel ready videos from the outset. So that's the way they want it to go, so that if you create a reel on let's say Instagram or Threads or Facebook or something like that, it can be cross-shared. I was having a fiddle around with Instagram the other day, and you can quite easily you get a settings, and there's a cross-sharing section where you can easily cross-share one of your reels, posts right across, the Facebook, Twitter, Threads, not Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, etc. So that's the way they want it to go, and that's why they've done that. So, right, integration with video editing apps means you can now post directly from editors to Facebook. Okay, so increasing workflow efficiency for multi-channel content creators. I think that's been around for a little while. I think some of the video editors have had that feature for a little while. Not all of them, but some of them. I've definitely seen it on some of them, specifically like CapCut. Mobile security upgrades, face and fingerprint login access for added account security to managers on the go. I'm actually not a big fan of that. I always get a bit kind of jumpy when people want to, take my fingerprints or biometric data. That's not because I'm not wanted. I've got like a all of these biometric passports, and I've got the a driving license with a biometric photo on it, and all the other documents. But with regard to computers, I'm sure you've all thought about this as well. It's always going through the back of your mind, when you set up a fingerprint login or a biometric face login. Where is that data going? Do you see what I mean? I actually typed something into Copilot the other day, and one of the first things that flashed up is warning, your biometric data and facial image may be used for the purposes of a privacy policy, and it's about 10,000 pages long. That's a slight exaggeration, but you get my point. It's always small print. Nobody's going to bother to read that, so you're always thinking, where's my data going to end up? Where is my fingerprints or my facial recognition imprints or template, if you like. Where's it going to end up? Is it going to end up with law enforcement or on a government database? And that's why I'm a bit reluctant to, as I'm sure many of you are as well, to kind of go down that route. So, okay. So right, Instagram. So Instagram brought in Restyle, an AI-powered video style tool currently on the Edits app and rolling into Instagram. Now, I had a fiddle around with the Edits Instagram app not so long ago. It wasn't too bad. There's some quite good templates there, to be fair, which didn't require a lot of work. I've not seen this AI-powered video style tool yet. Maybe you need to. Maybe it was there, but maybe you needed to. When I had a fiddle around it, maybe it's paid. I will have a look at it a bit later on. But you can see the way Meta want this to go. They want AI-powered video editing for short form apps. They want Reels to be universal across Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and I totally get it. As I mentioned in my last video, because I've got like the proper Sony video cam, tripod, and all the rest of it, which is about £1,000 worth of kit, £1,000 worth of kit. I actually don't focus too much on the short form content with the type of vlogs that I do. However, if you're a brand and you want to create brand awareness, it can be really useful for you. So, okay, so Instagram Reels can now be 20 minutes long, apparently, as of 2025. So that's kind of, almost converging or, moving into the sort of space of, my videos, which are typically sort of 25, 30 minutes long. I do wonder the kind of perceived wisdom behind that, because, if people are, the whole reason behind short form content and why it's proving popular is because smartphone usage is sky high. So, whether people are at work, on the train, the cafe, supermarket, car park, any other place, sitting on a coach, waiting in an airport, whatever it might be, or even fiddling around at home with a phone. You see, people find it easier to get the phones out than they just get a laptop out. It's a bit less hassle, isn't it? Even if you're trying to fall asleep, it's a bit easier to fiddle around with a phone than it is to be mucking around with a laptop and putting it away or whatever. So that's what's driving it, you see. And I do wonder, especially with the small screen sizes on a smartphone, whether people will actually watch a 20-minute reel. I personally think they won't, because the reason I say it is because I don't watch 20-minute reels. If I'm going to watch a video 20 minutes long, I watch it on a laptop, I watch it on a desktop, I watch it on TV. Just staring at a mobile phone, it's got to be a bloody good video. Whoops, a really good video to be, excuse my language, to be, watching it for 20 minutes on a smartphone. So look. Yeah, creators must balance these longer formats against audience attention spans, still prioritizing engagement. That's exactly what I just said. I don't think audience attention spans are that long for the reels. I really don't. I mean, initially they were 30 minutes a minute. Now we're saying 20 minutes. I can see what we're trying to do. We're trying to eat into YouTube's kind of business model, which is longer form content, where the videos are typically, 15 minutes to an hour, something like that. But I'm not sure if people are going to watch it on a phone. I'm not sure you get the same experience. So, right, more about Instagram. So, creative marketplacing improvements. Advertisers can discover real-time trends and new API. API is like an XML feed, supports more data-driven influencer partnerships and campaign sections. So basically, in a nutshell, what that's saying is, advertisers can discover real-time trends via an API. So if you're advertising and you're thinking about placing an ad, whatever, you can learn a lot more real-time trends from the XML feed. Etc. That's in a nutshell what that's saying. So let's move on to YouTube, which is my platform. That's my little baby. That's what I'm on various platforms like LinkedIn. I've got sort of 4,500 there. About I'm on X, where I've got about 4,000. I'm on Facebook, where I've got 3,500, something like that. I'm on Instagram, where I've got quite low there, 220. But that's kind of maybe deliberate, because if you try and, I'm sure you can relate to this, whether you're an individual or a business, if you try and spread yourself too widely over many social media platforms, you're not going to have the same success. If you focus on one or two and kind of focus on building those up and adding value and so that your audience kind of gets something to take away from it, you will have a lot more success, as opposed to trying to be an absolute rock star on 7 or 8 social media channels. By the way, a lot of these social media channels don't make money for the people who make content. I mean, as I mentioned before, I don't do this as a business. Yes, it's my sector, if you like, my trade straight work sector. I've been doing it since 2009, on and off, do the contract work and stuff. But I won't sit here and pretend that the social media or this YouTube account is the business, because I don't believe it is. Not for me, it's not. Now that's going to be different in different cases. Admittedly, it does lead into or feed into what I could regard as like the thing that would make me the money, does make the money, can make me the money, the actual source of revenue. But the actual social media itself is not a business, and a lot of people get carried away with that. We spend too much time, trying to get likes, hours and hours a day, filming, reels, long form content, photos, static posts, and all the rest of it. It doesn't make them money. So what's happening is they're losing their time. And their enjoyment and their time with their friends, their time doing other stuff with their family, partners, whatever it is. And if your stuff's not making them money. So that's why I kind of make 1 or 2 videos a month for this channel. I'll try and keep it sensible. Yes, it's longer form content, I'll give you that. It's not 1 minute, it's not a 3-minute watch, but that's the reason why I do it, and that's the reason why the videos are a bit longer. And hopefully, people who do take the time to watch these videos will be able to take something away from it. Okay, so we've kind of covered that one. Right, no, we haven't covered it. We're just getting on to it. YouTube. So, released advanced analytics showing more granular segmentation of viewers, views, casual, regular, letting content creators tailor strategies for more precise audience growth. The analytics on YouTube is very good, actually. If you click on, best thing to do is click on the banner at the top that you have, or if you don't have one, click on settings, and then once that appears on the left hand side, you'll see a column with a dashboard, content, etc., and a whole load of stuff underneath that. And if you click on analytics, and then it'll give you a breakdown of the audience and where your traffic's coming from, and there's a little box on the left hand side where you can tick different things, but where for example there's a box and you could click by subscribers, by geography, by views, and that type of thing, and it will really break down the analytics and give you a good picture of where things stand. I do think it's like all of us social media, I think people can maybe just get a bit too carried away with it. Depends on your situation. If you're like a business and you're getting paid great money and you got like a company screaming and yelling at you for analytics, then maybe, but I do think that like everything else in life, you can maybe go too granular, spend too much time on these things. I just film the videos and I try and make them as value packed and as informative as possible, and then I just put them out there. I edit them professionally, I put some stuff in the description with some links and some tips and tricks and stuff, and I just push it out there. What I don't do is spend 24 hours and doing 10 edits to try and perfect it, because I know these, for me it's not a business. For some people it might be, so I don't get, yes, I've got an interest in it, yes, it's my kind of sector, but I don't get ultra carried away with it to a point where I'm losing so much time and not getting a return on investment. So, but the analytics is there and it's really good. So, yeah, okay, so there's not much new. So TikTok live streaming, new features, optional DMs, enabling direct lead generation and more immediate interactions with viewers. Ideal for product demos, Q&As, and live sales. Now, I've used TikTok in the past. Mixed feelings about it. The algorithm is really good for engagement and short form content, especially if you haven't got a lot of subscribers. You can get you noticed quite quickly. You do get quite a lot of spammy links and spammy interactions from people who may not be interested in your product, what you're offering, your service and stuff. It's very mixed. It's very if you imagine like a fisherman throwing like a really wide net, it's a bit like that. There's a lot of people. It's very popular with the younger generation for things like dating and fashion and like silly videos. Well, not all silly, but you get my point. It's an entertainment platform, but that's why it's popular for marketeers to segment and reach out to that kind of audience, because those kinds of people are less likely to be found on platforms like LinkedIn and X, and it's so fragmented, guys. Everyone's on these things for different reasons, and different platforms are better for different things depending on your age group and what you're into and what your interests are. It's good to be on more than one. There's no denying that. It's always a mistake to be on one or maybe even two. I think people need to be. I think if you're a business or a brand or an organisation, seriously, I would say you need to be on at least 3. Really, honestly, to kind of have any meaningful impact. Now that varies. Some people go for LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Some people go for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. There's all. I saw something recently out. I tried to find a link. I'll see if I can find it a bit later on and put it in the description. But there's like a new social media platform which is like a rival to Elon Musk's X. At the moment it's still quite small. It's got 36 million users, but it's decentralized, you see, so it's not controlled by one single algorithm like X, and you can kind of configure and your own feeds a little bit more, and you've got more control over it. And I think that's why it's proving quite popular, as opposed to something like X, which used to be called Twitter, where you got one algorithm. Same is true of TikTok, controlling the whole thing. That's one thing that put me off TikTok is if you type in I don't know, digital marketing sense of TikTok, it will bring you up some stuff, and it will just keep throwing that stuff at you. The algorithm, it's a bit inflexible, I would say. You've really got to kind of go off track and look at different hashtags and stuff to kind of just move the needle and change that, what TikTok is throwing at you. It's very good for engagement and for brands looking to get the word out there about what they're doing, storytelling and stuff, given people short attention spans and mobile phone use. Yeah. So Pinterest, right, 2025 summer trend report. Digital detox content is we've got surging alongside French food. That's what it says here. Okay, yeah, fresh food, not French. Crafty DIY projects. Makes a bit more sense now. Astrologer themed beauty and outdoor, cottage core aesthetics. So basically, what it's saying is, and I found this as well, is that it's like a digital scrapboard of many different things. And if you're going to use Pinterest, I think I've got an account. I've not logged into it for months, to be honest. Kind of lost its interest for me soon after it launched, a number of years ago. But it does depend, what you're trying to achieve, what your age group is, what your interests are, or if you're a brand, what the product is, what the service is, where the people are located, who you're trying to reach. It's very popular in America, maybe less so in the UK. And it is regionalised. I've mentioned this on previous videos. Regardless of which country you're in and the people you're trying to reach, you need to do quite detailed, drilled down research as to where the people that you're trying to reach are located, and does that region use a particular social media platform. It does vary. It really does. You can't assume that everyone's using the top 4 platforms. They might use one, they might use 2, but they might use others as well. Okay, so Threads Meta. So Threads testing video ads and cross-platform expansion, including live and partnership focused formats. See, I personally think it's getting a bit too carried away, because we've obviously the last couple of years we've seen this huge uptick of content creators and people trying to create content as a way of earning money from home as a business. Now, I'm not one of those people. That's not the reason I'm on YouTube, okay? But there's too many people doing it now, and you can pick up these cameras quite cheaply. I bought mine new for about 600 quid, but middle of a range one. But you can get a second-hand piece of kit for like 300 quid now, or less, if it's a bit of an older spec camera. And people are trying to wing it, you see. But whether it's sitting at home, walking around a shopping centre, they think that's going to make them money, and I don't actually agree. I think the thing that's going to make you the money is like having clarity about what you're doing, having a strategy, having the right business model. That's the thing that's going to make you the money, not walking around, Cornwall or London or Manchester or wherever it might be with like a little vlogging camera. That's not the thing that's going to make you the money. It's going to be having a shrewd, sound business model, being really focused about what you're doing and adding value. But only that is going to make you the money. But social media maybe can help you along that journey, but that's not the core thing that's going to make you the money. I'm sure you understand that. Right, children's safety. I'm sure you've seen on the news the Online Safety Act came into effect this month, I believe. So it says from July 25, increased protections for under 18s, limiting exposure to harmful online content and requiring stricter age checks and all, moderation and all the rest of it. Now, look, there was also a thing on the news 2 or 3 days ago saying that people are getting the highest downloaded product is VPN, so that's virtual private network, and some of the platforms have reported like 1,000% increase in VPN downloads. Now, I'll be honest with you, I actually have a VPN. Now, there's a different reason why I have a VPN. It's because I work remotely, so I work from home, from coffee shops, and I'm out and about, and some of these networks are unsafe, so if you haven't got one, they can literally hack your network, steal your passwords, steal your data and all the rest of it. So, and also because I've travelled quite a bit, and I hope to actually do a bit more travelling this year. So that's why I have a VPN. I use NordVPN. I've tried a few others. Which ones have I tried? There's one in Switzerland. I haven't got it in front of me now, but there's basically a top 10 of VPNs, and I found that NordVPN are the best. Now, I've used them for a while. I've used them for about 4 or 5 years, and part of the reason for that is because I got like a great promo price. I think for me it works out £2 a month, which is peanuts. It's less than a cup of coffee, and for that you get like military grade encryption. So, the only kind of bugbear nuance I've got with it is that, the connection drops. So what I mean by that is if I just flick my computer or if I put my smartphone down, switch it off, or put it on pause, or put my laptop on sleep mode and buzz off, make a coffee and come back, then there's a high chance if I come back half an hour later that it will have disconnected automatically. So you do have to remember to click it on, but it is useful because if you want to read certain news articles in certain countries, or if you're on a video call and you don't want a company to be downloading software onto your computer, or sometimes it can be as simple as a company sending, or a business, or a malicious individual sending you an email. You click on the email and then it downloads a virus. So these VPNs are really good. I mean, like this one's here is, I've got it in front. It's got let me just run it. So you got bear with me 10 seconds. Right, here we go. So you've got anti-malware built into it. You've got advanced browsing protection, add and tracker blocker. So just to give you an idea, but this is, you see, a lot of people don't realise that, if you don't have a VPN, you're not protected online. You're really not. I mean, it doesn't. I just want to be clear. Having a VPN doesn't mean you're up to no good. But the VPN company can still see what you're doing. Although they say we have a no logs policy. But look, the point is it protects you. So if you don't have a VPN and you're just browsing, your local community Facebook page and your local Tesco website and all the rest of it, what's happening is all these information trackers and cookies have been logged on your computer, or they try and log. I mean, like I say, in the last week I've blocked 4,483, and that's just in the course of just browsing business websites. And they're all trying to get your information and what you look at and which websites you click on, which products you click on. It's all about selling, and obviously there's different companies out there that specialize in this kind of thing. They will sell your data to other companies, so you become the commodity. So by having a VPN, you protect yourself from that, and it does block certain phishing emails, which is when an email pretends to be from like a bank or something like that. So look, I really recommend it. Doesn't mean you're up to no good, doesn't mean you're a paedophile, any nonsense like that. It just protects you from scammers and viruses and malicious code and all that kind of stuff. It's really worth getting one. Like I said, I got like a 2-year deal. I think it's £2 a month, and I had that for the previous 2 years as well. By contrast, if you haven't got that deal, because I'm an existing customer, you can be paying sort of 50 quid a year or something easily, so to be paying 24 quid a year over 2 years, is a great deal. It prevents me having to get antivirus software, because this does the same thing, if that makes sense. I'll leave that one there. Let's move on. So right, okay, so right, so emerging strategic trends in digital marketing and SaaS, which is software as a service. So AI-driven content is visibly shaping campaign creatives, with tools increasingly able to generate or restyle content at scale to fit mood, trend, or platform requirements. You see this a lot. I certainly see it a lot, and I think, to be honest, if you are a content creator, I wouldn't say, but I know how to create content, but I wouldn't describe myself as a content creator in terms of job, but if that's what you do as a job, I think these people are going to find themselves out of work incredibly quickly, because or on reduced wages, because companies are realizing that with a basic sort of computer literate person in the office, an AI, they can probably crack some of this stuff without having to pay 35, 45 grand a year or more. In the very early days, when content was created manually. You need to have a bit more expertise. Before the AI days, it was hugely well paid. Now it's not. Now you see employers advertising for content creator for £12.21, which I think is utterly ridiculous. Well, it's not ridiculous, but it's business. They can get away with paying that. Good luck to them. And it's like I've been saying. The growth areas of digital marketing are the more skilled areas. If you look through some of my other videos, some of the real growth areas are like sustainability marketing, and you're just trying to stay ahead of the curve and look at what and how people and businesses are going to navigate the AI revolution and stuff. That's where the higher paid roles are, not creating content for Facebook and Twitter and stuff, or X. So expect continuous improvement in creating in creator-facing AI tools with more customizable and real-time options. So, data privacy and regulation. Third-party cookie depreciation is finally progressing. Marketers must double down on first-party data, content-driven engagement, and contextual targeting in customers to get more privacy conscious. So the nuts have been tightened on this. It's so many things have changed since like 2007. With regard to social media regulation and privacy regulation, and it's going to change even more. I've already touched on the cross-platform integration. So social ecosystems are more connected. Meta allows for easier posting, advertising, and audience tracking between Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Threads is a bit more targeted, by the way. If you click on Threads, top left-hand corner, click on the button, you'll be able to select up to 5 not threads, but news feeds, if you like. So you can select what you want in news feed. You can only have up to 5, and then you've got to delete one to have another one. But it gives you a bit more control. Whereas Twitter is a bit more widespread, a bit more diverse. So that's definitely something that's happening across all the platforms. Is that the operators of these platforms are making the content more shareable, especially with regard to like Meta with Facebook, Instagram, and Threads and stuff. But you see a lot happening with YouTube Shorts, and all the rest of it. TikTok and other platforms. So look, there's loads of stuff. I don't know if we're going to have time to read through. I'll read out a little bit more. So short form isn't everything. Experiment with longer reels, Instagram 20 minutes, and in-depth YouTube tutorials formats. But always track what your audience prefers. Yeah, that's true. There's no right or wrong. The ultimate thing which will, get you noticed is the quality. Is it good? Does it add value? Does it make sense? Are you just doing what somebody else has done, or are you, making something new and adding your own context to it? Do you see what I mean? I personally think, as I mentioned, that 20 minutes on a mobile phone, I don't think that's gonna be a winner. Because people have got short attention spans, and if you're looking at a mobile phone for more than sort of 3 or 4 minutes, especially in public, people are going to be wondering about you, asking what you're doing. So I'm not sure that'll work. I never watch 20-minute videos on a mobile phone. I really don't. I just don't think it works. Maybe up to 5 minutes, maybe, but we'll see. Maximize discovery by using marketplace APIs, that's an XML feed, and trend analytics, especially on Instagram's creator business offering. Nuanced trends and platform shifts. Brands are rapidly moving budget. Brands are rapidly moving budget away from Facebook static ads and towards video-centric and creator-driven content. I can understand that. Video is a lot more interactive. A static Facebook post is a bit boring. It's been in decline for a while. If you just go to ChatGPT and I say, is organic Facebook in decline, it will tell you yes, it is in decline. So I can see why that is. We do live in a video age. People prefer to interact with video content, whether it's these kind of people and blogs type videos that I do, or whether it's like a travel video going around a resort or a hotel. People find that much more interesting. X, formerly known as Twitter, and Threads are vying for prominence as public discussion hubs. Context-specific content, real-time engagement. Yeah, there's a bit of a war heating up there between X, formerly Twitter, and Threads. In fact, all of them. To be honest, they're all in slightly different spaces. The SES sector is prioritising analytics dashboard features for marketeers, focusing on multi-platform campaign measurement and AI-powered reporting. So I've noticed that a lot of the software and the social media platforms are all focusing on these dashboards, and I do think that it's maybe gone a bit too far, in some respects, because now, when a company is like looking to recruit somebody, they're always putting a sarcastic remark in the ad saying we're not looking for somebody to tweak the dashboard by 0.5%. So I find quite funny. Look, ultimately, guys, the thing that will make you stand out as a business, as a brand, or even as an individual, is your storytelling ability. How you can get the message across about what you do, okay, in a simple, lightly entertaining way, or a lightly interesting way, without boring people to death. If it's too long, they're going to switch off. I often think my videos are too long, but with the type of videos I make, you have to appreciate it's not really possible to squeeze that into 5 minutes. So if you can do that and just kind of try and add value on sort of 3 or 5 platforms, social media platforms that is, maybe pick 3 and focus on really doing a good job on that, instead of trying to be great on 7 or 8, if you see what I mean, because you're spreading yourself too thin then. And if you can just kind of tell your brand story in a creative way, which is perhaps a little bit different from what everybody else is doing, try and make yourself stand out. Imagine you're walking into a pub, you don't want to be the same as everybody else, talking the same stuff as everybody else. Just try and differentiate yourself into how you come across as either a business brand or yourself, and just look at what you're doing, and if you can find a way to do that in a compelling, authentic, sensible way, and not bore people to death. It needs to be a balance of humor, seriousness, adding value, making people feel like they're almost at your business, whether it's a product or a service, making people feel part of your journey. Then you'll have more luck with that, as opposed to getting super carried away with loads of platforms and dashboards where you're just going to get brain fried and brain frazzled. And if you can just try and keep things simple and focus, and always focus on the business model. I do think, and I've said this before, people focus on these tools and dashboards. You ever seen some of these DJs at some of these DJing gigs, they're focusing on all the buttons in front of them and stuff, and it just gets a bit carried away. So with regard to like marketing, try not to focus too much on the tools. The tools are useful, but maybe you don't need 100 tools. Maybe you can do a great job with like 5 or 10 tools. If you've really done your research and drilled down what you're looking for, maybe you don't need to overly complicate things with fancy dashboards, fancy analytics and APIs, and just, focus on the business model, focus on doing what you do well and telling your story in an authentic way in maybe 2 or 3 really popular, high-profile social media platforms. Make yourself stand out. Yeah, but that's my message to you. So obviously I've talked about some of the regulatory changes, with regard to kids and the Online Safety Act. It's been coming for a while. So I've kind of covered what I wanted to say. I've talked for probably far too long as usual, but I make these videos once a month, so that's my excuse. So thank you very much for listening and watching, same thing. And I hope to see you on the next one. So take care, look after yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Bye.